Hey everyone, here's a film that I was not expecting, and it's coming to theaters on November 26th, so mark your calendars. Hamnet is a new film about the marriage of William Shakespeare and his early family life. It's directed by Chloé Zhao, who's probably best known for The Eternals, which is honestly not a great film for representing the kind of movies that she's actually good at directing. This film, Hamnet, is exactly the kind of story she excels at. And she worked with Maggie O'Farrell, the author of the novel, when developing the screenplay. The result, I'm not even going to beat around the bush here. I think it's fantastic. This doesn't mean it's for everyone, doesn't mean it's perfect either. But if this is the kind of film you like, you are going to be blown away by this story and by the performances of Jessie Buckley, Paul Mescal, and Jacobi Jupe. So, yes, I'm giving away right up front that I love this film. It's quite possibly one of the best films that I've seen all year, and I was angry that nobody warned me to bring a Kleenex. So, bring a Kleenex or two. If you are like me, you're gonna need it. Here's the thing about Hamnet. The film gets so much right that problems with it just kind of fade away a bit if you are a fan of William Shakespeare. The Tudor era period dramas or romances that will absolutely break your heart. Hamlet's story and structure are so well constructed that they immediately pull you into the lives of William and Agnes, which that's how they pronounce it in the film. So that's how I'm going to pronounce it in this review. So that's why I'm saying it that way. This is a historical film based upon the first 15-ish years of Agnes and William's life together. We see them meet, fall in love, and start a family together in Stratford. It introduces us to the magic that seems to swirl around Agnes, as well as the clever games that their children would play, and how their family life was ultimately an inspiration for Shakespeare, the writer. We also see that William and Agnes are willing to kind of sacrifice so many different things in order to preserve the happiness of their spouse and the family as a whole. The entire story becomes the emotional root of Shakespeare's play, Hamlet. First off, you need to know that while this film is based on William and Agnes's life, the events surrounding their children and some other things, it isn't always historically correct. The key plot points align with kind of what we know, yes, yet the film pulls in elements from Shakespeare's plays in ways that show us the moments and experiences that might have inspired those parts of his plays, or the whole play, or the poetry that he wrote, or the sonnets that he wrote. The reason this works so well is that the experiences and conflicts are filled with both the comedy and the tragedy, and you get to see the DNA of his writing in those experiences, which are woven into the film so naturally that they feel organic. It feels like this is how everything must have happened to spark the stories that poured out of Shakespeare when he was writing. The film keeps the story moving forward and makes it relatable by creating complex characters who find beauty in each other despite or perhaps because of the challenges that life and circumstance present. You feel the natural world around them. You understand why they do what they do. Their conflicts make sense, and the way they find resolution, it just feels real. We also get this really lovely dance between the romanticized version of their life together and the bitter truth of the hardships that came with their circumstances and the period when they lived. Life was not easy, but they found joy in each other and in their family. That sense of connection is everything that drives both William and Agnes's relationship, and ultimately it becomes the well of inspiration for the greatest writer of all time. And no hyperbole there. That's exactly what I think of William Shakespeare, greatest writer of all time. What's clever about Hamnet, and you don't really even consciously realize it until this one scene in London, is that the film never actually names William Shakespeare in any way. There's really only this one point where that does happen, and you don't get it until you get closer to the end of the film. Still, we know that it's him, but by avoiding his name, we don't get wrapped up in our fascination of the bard. Instead, the focus really stays on this imaginative and impulsive young man who falls madly in love with a woman who some people labeled as a forest witch because of her knowledge of herbs and natural remedies and things like that. This also allows the film to capture the emotional truth of his transition from young husband to iconic playwright. It builds a parallel between the family's grief and what is arguably considered the greatest play of all time. The film also stands out in contrast to a lot of what we see in today's theaters. Many modern stories feel like they have been softened, almost made therapeutic. Conflicts are simplified. The emotional toll of love and loss is just flattened, and painful experiences are often just avoided or easily resolved. This film, it does the opposite. It lets the pain fully exist. And the way it happens, we feel it alongside the characters, which makes it feel that much more realistic. It lets the devastation land in unexpected ways that still feel so surprising. And it asks how a family can survive something that just crushes you, how art can rise out of that wreckage, and how that pain can translate into experiences that impact all of us century after century after century. Because that's exactly what happens with William Shakespeare's work. That is the terrible beauty of this film, and it's why this adaptation absolutely works. Jessie Buckley gives Agnes a sense of mystery and magic in this story. She feels connected to nature, to superstition, to intuition, and she brings an emotional strength that becomes the backbone of her family. Her performance is layered and vulnerable and just deeply moving. Paul Mescal, he plays William as a man torn between the pull of London and the comforts of home. He needs to create, and if he doesn't, his art feels like it's gonna just literally rip its way out of him. And we get all of this from a single scene with Agnes when she reacts to him in a particular moment. Paul Mescal's performance is gentle but ambitious. We feel the crushing pressures around him, and his response to Jessie Buckley's performance, it is sincere and it is believable. It feels like we're seeing a relationship develop on camera and then threaten to split apart in just devastating pain. The children, they are just background elements in this film. They're not just background characters filling a spot. They all do a great job with their roles. But I gotta say, Jacobi Jupe, who plays Hamnet, is so endearing that you cannot help but to love this boy. Is he acting, or honestly, is he truly that sweet and wonderful? I have no idea, yet he is the spark that really sets the conflict on fire in this film, and you can't help but to adore him. The supporting cast includes Emily Watson and Joe Alwyn, who both do a great job with their roles as well, and they highlight exactly why a supporting actor is supposed to do what they do. They do not steal the show, instead, they help create this realistic world in which both William and Agnes feel like the center of this universe, of this small little universe. So I often say that even the best films have problems, and it would be insincere of me not to mention the few that stood out for me in Hamnet, even though I really like this film. The movie, it comes in at over 2 hours, and there are definitely a few times where scenes linger just a bit too long, and the film easily could have been cut. by about 15 or 20 minutes. There are also some obvious moments in which the director shows us point blank which famous lines of dialogue or scenes from a Shakespeare play come out of certain moments in conflict and pain and joy, and how she sees this all kind of being pulled together. Some of the historical elements are also kind of moved around to elevate the story in order to build the arc better. Although I don't think most people are going to care about that because the overall impact of this story, it's just wonderful. And I think the hardest thing for some viewers will be the slow buildup, the family drama, and the lack of action, because we as viewers have been trained to expect fast-paced storytelling in our films, and it is not that kind of movie. So, is Hamnet ticket worthy? For me, obviously, you know the answer is yes. If you love cinema that asks you to feel something real alongside the characters on screen, and you enjoy period pieces and historicals, you're likely to enjoy this film. If you are a Shakespeare buff, this feels like one of the best films about him that I have honestly ever seen. Although I didn't realize that until about halfway through the movie. And it was at that kind of halfway point that I was like, oh my God, this is such a good movie. This is an art film with an emotional story arc that just cuts into the deepest parts of the human experience. And it's a movie that asks you to sit with it, to let it breathe in you, to let the emotional weight just settle into you as you watch it. If none of this sounds like your cup of tea, if I'm being a little bit too dramatic with this one, you need to skip it. This story is not for everybody. The story unfolds slowly, and the action is likely not what you're going to be expecting. If you prefer a fast-paced drama that's like sharply told, that just kind of goes bing, bang, boom. If you're not a fan of period pieces, where people have to live without the conveniences of modern life, this again is not a film for you. So, Hamnet, are you thinking about seeing it? Have you heard of it? Are you a Shakespeare fan? Let me know in the chat below and tell me your favorite film, or sorry, your favorite Shakespeare play. Have you ever been to the Globe? Let's talk about it. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you for being here. Please do give this review a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this with a friend, because I would love it if this film did really well in theaters, because that's how much I enjoyed this movie. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Happy viewing to you all. Why not check out one of these reviews while you're here? And I will see y'all again soon. Bye for now.